Well, you heroes out there, I'm your professional protagonist, and welcome to Hell Yeah Gaming, where I'm not the stepfather, I'm just the father that stepped up to find the real one. Get your paternity tests ready, because today we're looking into the mysterious parentage of Messmer and Melina. Before we dive in, we've got to shout out our subscriber of the day, TrapAdvisor. Thanks for all the hard work helping to improve evil layers the world over. If you want to be the subscriber of the day, all you need to do is be subscribed and leave comments on my videos and community posts. Huh. Well, that was ironic. Messmer and Melina. Melina and Messmer. These two have been at the heart of a great many mysteries. Melina especially, considering just how little we actually know of for certain in regards to her. They share a great many things between them, from being demigod children of Marika to a connection with fire, and even the fact that they are practically completely unknown in the lands between, with absolutely nobody mentioning them or acknowledging their existence in any way. It is for this very reason that we still do not know where they came from. Godwyn was the perfect golden child from the Age of Plenty during the beloved rule of Godfrey, so of course his parentage was well advertised. Despite being open, Godfrey showed care and kindness for his twin sons Morgott and Mohg, taking full ownership as their father. Ranni, Radagon, and Rykard were the offspring of a high-profile political marriage between Radagon and Rennala, who each also went on to become movers and shakers of the world. And of course, the Empyrean twins Miquella and Melina were born of a single god, due to Marika and Radagon being the same person, yet separate. And Miquella maintained a good relationship with his father, if the incantations they each gifted to one another are any indication. And yet, Messmer nor Melina get the same acknowledgement in universe. Messmer was intentionally banished and scrubbed from history. It is only by traveling to the land of shadow where he resides that any evidence of his existence is found, and even then, there is no mention of who his father is, nor a solid time frame for his birth. Melina fares even worse, as despite being our companion throughout the majority of the game, the only reference to her even existing is our own interactions with her, and potentially a vague statement by Ranni when she expresses familiarity with Torrhen's previous owner. Though that depends on if you interpret this to mean Miquella, which I do not, but that's veering too far off topic. Even Melina herself never says that she's a demigod at all, much less a daughter of Marika. She only makes vague, cryptic statements of being born at the foot of the Erdtree, and that her mother resides within it. Of course, there could be very few ways these words could be interpreted, but that still isn't total confirmation. For that, we have to turn to the data miners, who found that Melina is labeled in the code as Marika of Daughter. Okay, so we've taken the time to establish what we already know, that Messmer and Melina are both children of Marika. And it only took us how long? Ah, yes, very efficient. My future career in government management is assured! Jokes aside, it is important to establish our baseline facts from which to work. Knowing these two are children of Marika is important, because there are demigods that technically are not her offspring. Godric the Grafted, for example, is the last living descendant of the Golden lineage, meaning Godwyn's lineage. Despite being a distant descendant, he is still considered a demigod and inherited Godwyn's throne in Leyndell. Similarly, the Carian demigods, the offspring of Radagon and Rennala, are only ever referred to as Marika's demigod stepchildren, even though she and Radagon are one and the same. So by establishing that Messmer and Melina are children of Marika, we can confirm exactly that. They are the direct offspring of Marika, who is their mother. I believe that we can safely assume Messmer and Melina have the same father. Elden Ring has always been very good at keeping the relationships of the demigods very clear, making the distinction between a sibling, half-sibling, and step-sibling. Thanks to the description of Messmer's kindling, we know that Messmer had a younger sister who also bore a vision of fire. There are 3 women demigods: Melina, Ranni, and Melina. Naturally, Melina doesn't fit at all, as she has nothing to do with flame and everything to do with rot. Ranni could be shoehorned to fit, seeing as she had her physical body scorched by the flame of destined death, but she is much more heavily associated with frost, glintstone, the stars, and coldness of the void. Not to mention they could only be half-siblings at best. But Melina? Oh, she fits the description to a T. Like Ranni, she was at one point burned and bodiless, but she goes on to use her spirit as kindling to burn the Erdtree, just as we use Messmer's remains as kindling to burn the Sealing Tree. Of course, I'm not covering any new ground here. The instant Messmer's kindling entered popular knowledge, everyone jumped on the idea that Melina is his sister. Which, just as a real quick side tangent, can I say how huge of a missed opportunity it is that Melina has no lines absolutely in the DLC whatsoever. I understand Miyazaki didn't want the main story in the DLC to have any crossover due to the potential of NPCs dying and cutting stories off, but for real, it would have been amazing to include just some extra interactions just for Melina if you access the Shadowlands before burning her. Ugh. Okay, off my soapbox and back on track. Since we have established Messmer and Melina are siblings, we can reasonably assume that they were born around the same general time frame. Granted, when talking about Marika the Eternal, we're measuring general time frames, potentially on a scale of centuries or millennia. But still. Next, we need to look for clues to that point to when they were born. On Messmer's side of things, we have the description of Gaius's remembrance, which helpfully informs us that both Gaius and Messmer were as older brothers to Radagon. So, we know that Messmer was born before Radagon. That's great. Very helpful. So, basically, at any point before Radagon left Rennala. Now, I thought that I would be completely SOL when looking for clues about when Melina was born, seeing as she's by far the demigod we know the least about. But I was pleasantly surprised when considering all of the evidence. We know from her summon in Morgoth's boss fight that Melina knows the minor Erdtree incantation, and in fact is the only character in the entire game capable of using it. Prior to the DLC, we couldn't have known how important a detail this was. We find the incantation in the hidden away shaman village at the foot of, well, a minor Erdtree, as well as a braid of Marika's golden hair. Thanks to the description of this incantation, we know the shaman village was Marika's home, as well as that this spell is a secret of Marika's. Since we do not see the spell in use anywhere else in the world, and only by Melina, I have to conclude that Melina was present at the time Marika delivered this gift of eternal gold unto her slain people. Only, when could that have happened? I assume this could only have occurred after her ascension to godhood, since presumably she had not yet separated light and shadow. And the grace of gold is something that comes from the Erdtree, which itself was also born from this separation. But apart from that, Marika could have returned to her home village at any point. So this means that we've established that Messmer and Melina were born any time from around Marika's ascension to before the creation of the Tarnished and Radagon taking the Elden Throne. That is still too big of a time frame. Ugh! Okay. Different approach. Let's approach this from a different angle. Let's look at potential fathers so we can see who fits. We'll start with the 2 men we know for certain Marika had children with, the first and second lords, Godfrey and Radagon. Right out of the gate, Godfrey may seem like an obvious answer since he was married to Marika during this stretch of time we've established Messmer and Melina had to have been born. But once you look further than that, nothing seems to really add up. The only publicly recognized child of Godfrey is Godwyn the Golden, due to the twins Morgoth and Mohg, as well as an undetermined amount of additional residents in the Shunning Grounds. being born Omen. One could see this argument for Messmer as well, since he was banished to the Land of Shadow for his abyssal serpent. But what about Melina? And don't any of you bring up the Gloam-Eyed Queen thing. I am 100% certain that she could not have been the Gloam-Eyed Queen, though she could have inherited the mantle in the Frenzied Flame ending. Ultimately, apart from the timing, there just isn't really anything that ties these two to Godfrey. But things start to turn around once we look to Marika's second paramour, Radagon. Indeed, the most popular consent I see is that they are the children of Radagon from a time prior to Godfrey. So let's look at the evidence, shall we? Radagon and Marika's kids, Melina and Mikola, both have special butterflies associated with them, the Aeonian and Nascent butterflies, respectively. The base game also has the Smoldering Butterfly, which did not directly tie into a specific character, but was long believed to be associated with Melina. In the Land of Shadow, we find that Messmer has his own butterfly association, the Black Pyrefly. This is not a trait shared by any of Godfrey or Relinala's children. Additionally, I am told by those far more educated about music than me, that Messmer's boss theme has elements of Radagon's theme built into it. This is something I have to take on faith, as my ear is not very discerning. And of course there is the elephant in the room. All of Radagon's kids inherit his red hair. Looking at Messmer, yep, that's some red hair, all right. So that's it then. Case closed. Overwhelming evidence says the father is Radagon? Well, not exactly. You see, while I had agreed with the general consensus that Radagon is the father, I was never fully convinced and only subscribed to that belief because it seemed the simplest explanation, and I am quite the Occam's razor type when it comes to interpreting this lore. However, some things never sat quite right with me. For one, we know that Godfrey was present for the creation of the Erdtree, since that act was undertaken as the foundation of Marika's ascension. Godfrey was the first Elden Lord. A god requires a lord, and the Talisman of Lord's bestowal proves to us that his actions also led to the land being draped in shadow. What bothers me about all of this is if she already had Radagon, regardless of if he was part of her or not yet. Why would Marika have needed Godfrey as her lord? The other detail that never sat right with me goes back to the hair. Hair is an important indicator of lineage in Elden Ring. Let me show you what I mean. Godfrey has white hair. Marika has gold hair. Radagon has red hair. Now let's take a look at Godfrey's kids. Godwyn inherited his mother's golden locks, while Morgott sports his father's white hair. Mohg is the outlier, as he has no visible hair due to favoring his horns. Even Godric the Grafted, despite being untold generations separated from them, has Godfrey's white hair. The demigod's stepchildren are easy. All three of them flip the middle finger to science of genetics and their mother's black hair in favor of being gingers. The Empyrean twins are split down the middle, with Melania getting Radagon's red and Mikola shining with Marika's gold. In every instance, we see the demigods inheriting the hair color of one of their divine parents. So with that in mind, let's take a look at our mystery children. Yep, Messmer's hair is still red. So far, so good. Alright, now we take a look at... Wait a minute here! What is this? No, seriously, what the hell is this? Who let the sandy brunette in here? Oh, great. Now I have to go poring over every NPC and piece of dialogue, item description, and environmental clue to find someone Marika could have boned that's a brunette. Only, hold on now, that doesn't make sense. It would have to be someone Radagon boned for Messmer to wind up with red hair, but then neither of them would be children of Marika, and oh no, I've gotten cross-eyed. Friends, I hit my low point here. I thought for sure there was no way I could come up with a satisfying answer to who Messmer and Melina's parents are. I was stuck in a rut and switched my focus to other discussions and mysteries, listening to the occasional lore or theory video, rewatching the DLC story trailer, and that's when an idea struck me. An idea that I had been gnawing at the back of my mind. And the opening scenes of Marika in this story trailer are not very clear. And I don't mean that in the general vagueness of the scene. I mean in terms of the visuals on display. A lot of the details are very difficult to see due to the angles and lighting chosen. So, of course, that led me to ask a very important question. What do they want me to focus on? What details are they trying to show off? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I've been so obsessed that I've tricked my mind into seeing what it wants to see. But look at Marika's hair as she steps up these stairs. Look at it before the power is unleashed through the gates of divinity. Does this hair look golden to you? Or is it just reflecting the golden light from the gates? Yes, I am proposing that Marika's hair in this scene is not gold, but that it turns gold from a sandy brunette. And that would mean that Melina did in fact inherit her mother's hair color, her natural hair color, before ascending to godhood. Melina and Messmer, being the older brother, were born before Marika ascended at the gates of divinity, when she was a mere Empyrean. But we can do better than that. We can go deeper still. LoreTuber KiteTails released a video titled, "This Clue About Marika Might Solve the Timeline," in which she talks about, well, a lot of things, really. It's a great video, and she's a fantastic LoreTuber. If you're not subbed to KiteTails, go do that right now. But relevant to what we're discussing, she examined the different statues of Marika in the game and pointed out a detail that was too minor for me to ever notice on my own. That being that these statues show her hair at different lengths, presumably reflecting how she appeared at the time of their construction. If we examine the statue in Messmer's chamber depicting Marika holding the baby Messmer, we find that she only has one single braid. Remember that braid of her hair left at Shaman Village? A braid of golden locks? The details are all coming together now. Marika gave birth to Messmer and Melina, likely as twins, seeing as how close they'd had to have been born, and twins clearly run in her genetics. Then, very soon afterward, committed her original sin and ascended to godhood, separating light and shadow, creating the Erdtree and Shadowtree, and establishing her new age. She then paid her respects to her home village, leaving behind the healing minor Erdtree and a braid of her hair now brimming with golden light. Of course, this doesn't explain how Messmer could have red hair, unless it came from Radagon in a relationship before Godfrey. Huh.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
I know I said the only reason I subscribed to the idea before was Occam's razor, but only I could ramble a whole deep dive of complex mystery, evidence, and copium, only to arrive right back at that same simple solution. Well, even if I didn't wind up at some grand new destination, the journey was a fun one, with some pretty big revelations along the way. If you found this theory entertaining, be sure to check out my I Solved Shadow of the Erdtree video. Be on the lookout for more content like this coming soon, and be sure to come by for my channel's big anniversary livestream on September 2nd. Until then, let's all cheer on with a great big Hell yeah!